Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the NoDQ.com live recap of both Friday Night Smackdown and AEW Rampage. It was a very unique night where we had a period of AEW going head-to-head with SmackDown. SmackDown this week, due to the baseball playoffs, was moved to FS1. That has happened the last couple of years since SmackDown moved over to Fox. And AEW Dynamite, usual time slot. But what happened was WWE decided to make a 2.5-hour supersized edition of SmackDown, an extra half hour going into the time slot with AEW Rampage. 10 o'clock Eastern to 10:30 Eastern. AEW and WWE head-to-head. AEW responded to that by having a buy-in prior to Rampage starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, going head-to-head with the second hour of SmackDown. A lot to discuss. We have 4.5 hours of wrestling action. So there's a lot to digest, a lot to talk about. Thank you to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. I appreciate your viewership. And if you do enjoy this video, please do me a favor, give this video a like on the YouTube page and spread the word. Share a link of this video to a friend, anybody who watches wrestling, have them check this out. Again, very much appreciated. Word of mouth goes a long way. All right. We're going to start with SmackDown, and then we'll get to AEW. SmackDown, we had a new intro, new graphics. Not sure if it's just 1 week for the supersized SmackDown, but we did have some new graphics and a new intro. Sold out crowd in Ontario, California, which was funny because this show started 5 o'clock Pacific time, and LA is notorious for the bad traffic, and you did see some empty seats, but WWE actually had a sold-out crowd for the show, and it was full later on. By the time you had the main event segment, you could tell the arena was full. We had Edge come down to the ring, and he sat down in a chair. We had a recap shown of his feud with Seth Rollins. He brought up their history, and he talked about Rollins going to his house and said that Rollins took a page out of his playbook because back in the day, he slapped Cena's dad. If you all remember, Edge went into the Cena house and slapped John Cena Sr. Edge said that he underestimated Rollins. What a rookie thing to do, by the way. Like, if you're a veteran, you should never underestimate anybody, right? Rollins was watching backstage at that side angle that WWE always does, and Edge said, yeah, he could go to Rollins' house and see Becky Lynch there, but he's going to take care of business Hell in a Cell. He is going to scar the soul of Seth Rollins. This was a really good promo from Edge. I liked it. Nice start to the show. We had Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn in a King of the Ring semi-final match. Really good back and forth match here between the two of them. I enjoyed it a lot. Sami Zayn got quite a bit of offense in. Did his signature moves. Blue Thunder Bomb, which of course Finn Balor kicked out of because, well, everybody kicks out of that move. He hit an exploder in the corner. He went for the haluva kick, but he missed. He then tried to roll up Balor, but the referee saw Zayn putting his feet on the ropes. Balor made a comeback, was unsuccessful in his first attempt to hit the coup de grace, but then drop-kicked Zayn into the corner, went up top, hit the move, and scored the 1-2-3 victory. No surprise here. Figured Balor would be going into the Crown Jewel final match, either against Xavier Woods or Jinder Mahal. And like I said before, don't get your hopes up about Xavier Woods. I would like to see it, but My gut feeling is Jinder Mahal is winning that match. We had a Paul Heyman video package, which was highlighting the history between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. Paul Heyman kind of being the man in the middle. We had Naomi come down to the ring for her match with Sonya Deville. And if you guys remember last week, I figured that Sonya Deville would be in some sort of angle here. There would be some kind of shenanigans. And sure enough, she came to the ring in her suit, and she said that it's actually going to be a handicapped match with Naomi going up against Sonya Deville and Shayna Baszler. So that was the big catch here. Sonya slapped Naomi. Shayna went after Naomi. And then Shayna held Naomi as Sonya took some shots. Naomi made a comeback. She managed to fight them both off for a little bit. But then Shayna got the Kirifuda clutch on. Sonya Deville did some trash talking. And, well, Sonya and Shayna picked up the win. Sonya did do a little bit of wrestling, I guess. So I guess we'll see what happens next here. It's better than her not doing anything at all. She technically was in a match. She wrestled in her formal clothes, but she did actually do a little bit. Not like a full-blown match or anything. Shayna did most of the work, but Sonya was in there getting physical a little bit and technically won her first match back. So there you go. I mean, it was fine. I really had no issues with it. We had Seth Rollins come into the ring to respond to Edge. He said that he is going to unleash hell in their Hell in a Cell match. He was laughing. He said he's better than Edge in every single way. There's no way Edge can be 100%. But Edge, according to Rollins, had an ace up his sleeve. Hell in a Cell. However, Seth Rollins, he's not afraid. The crowd chanted, "We want Edge." And Rollins talked about how he spent more time inside Hell in a Cell than Edge. And Hell in a Cell made him who he is today, which is true, of course, if you go back to that notorious Hell in a Cell match between Rollins and The Fiend. That is, in fact, true. Rollins said that he will prevail because he is Seth freaking Rollins. Another good promo. Very solid promos from both guys heading into Thursday's Crown Jewel. NoDQ.com will have live coverage this Thursday, 12 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Pacific time. Unusual time. A lot of people are working, but I'll be doing the coverage. I'll be live streaming afterwards. That'll probably be, I want to say 3, 4 o'clock, somewhere around there. Make sure you guys tune in for that. That will be this coming Thursday. We had a recap of the Queen's Crown matches, you know, the 8 minutes total between the first round matches that we had. Backstage, Zelina Vega and Carmella talked a little bit, and Zelina said there's no need for the mask. They're going to go out there, have a nice, clean, fair fight. We had the match, and it was a fair fight at first, but then Carmella got hit in the nose. Well, actually, Zelina got hit in the nose, and she got really angry. She did a Luthez press and just started punching away at Carmella. So Carmella went out to grab her mask. But you had Liv Morgan taking the mask, and then Zelina Vega hit an inside cradle and got the win over Carmella. Match was like 3 minutes long. I was hoping they would have gotten more time, considering this was a 2.5 hour SmackDown. But whatever. You had to have Happy Corbin on this show, and that was stupid. We'll get to that here in a second. We did have some video packages to hype up Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Charlotte Flair debuting on SmackDown next week. Next week, the new rosters go into effect. So Happy Corbin came out with Madcap Moss. This was a totally pointless segment. Like, they should have given the women more time, in my opinion. They were making the stupid jokes, and this is when the buy-in was going on. You had Bobby Fish's match, and I had both shows on at the same time, and I was more invested in the Bobby Fish match at this point when you have Happy Corbin out there with this terrible segment. You had Rick Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura, and again, this is an example of bad heat because I'm watching the Bobby Fish match instead of SmackDown. Like, I guess the ratings count because I had SmackDown on the TV, so in the end it doesn't really matter. But I could see other people that might pick one over the other. They're like, well, I'm gonna actually watch a wrestling match instead of this crap with Happy Corbin. So we'll see. I'm very interested in the numbers to see what they do this week with AEW and SmackDown. It'll be interesting to see if the buy-in had any negative effect on SmackDown. They had I think they came very close to 100,000 people watching on YouTube, and they probably had more watching on Fight TV. So we'll see if that takes any chunk out of the SmackDown number. SmackDown is always down for the FS1 shows, about half their audience, like even more than that. They do roughly 1 million people. So we'll see what happens. Nick Lavin says the Happy Corbin bit was funny at first, not so much now. Man, I really miss the bum-ass Corbin. Like, that was great, and now it's just annoying again. And they were interrupted, thankfully, hopefully next time it'll be sooner. Rick Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura, which was just them coming out, and Pat McAfee doing his thing. They'll probably have a tag match next week, and that's where this is going. Street Profits arrived, and we got to hear Boogs playing the Street Profits song a little bit. And this led to the Street Profits versus the Usos in a street fight for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Hell of a match here. They went right at it, and this was a tough watch because over on the buy-in for AEW, you had the match between Suzuki and Bryan Danielson, and that match was fantastic. We'll get to that in a little bit. But both of these matches were great, and it was really hard watching one over the other. I was trying to watch both. I think it's a disservice to try to watch both at the same time. I really think you guys, if you only saw one match, you should definitely check out the other. And I think each match should be watched individually. I think both of them deserve that. The street fight was great. These guys had a fantastic match. Lots of fast-paced action. Crowd was hot. The Ontario crowd was really hot for this show. They've been, more or less, the SmackDown crowds have been really solid. This one was no exception. And the Profits got a nice pop by bringing in the tables. We know how much the fans love the tables. And there was even the get the tables phrase shouted. Crowd popped big for that. Usos used some kendo sticks. They double teamed Dawkins with the kendo sticks. You had Pat McAfee with a funny line saying that they were in SoCal, Southern California, close to the sand, man, as the kendo sticks were being used, the obvious little reference to the Sandman. I thought that was amusing. Eventually, the Street Profits made a comeback. Dawkins got some payback with the kendo stick. And Montez Ford hit his big frog splash, turning himself in midair. But Jey Uso pulled out Ford, slammed Ford through a table, and Ford's selling was fantastic. The eyes looked like they were rolling in the back of his head. He did a great job selling this. In the back in the ring, Usos hit double super kicks, and then they both hit frog splashes to pin Dawkins. This made sense, Street Profits going back to Raw, putting over the champs on the way out. Conclusion to this storyline. Usos pick up another win to retain their titles. This was a really strong match. I definitely recommend checking it out. Then we had our final 30 minutes of SmackDown. Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks. commercial free. And then AEW, after it was announced that the last 30 minutes of SmackDown against Rampage would be commercial free, Tony Khan announced that the CM Punk Matt Sydal match to kick off Rampage would also be commercial free. So they were going back and forth here. Pat McAfee had an interesting line calling Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks the two of the four pillars of SmackDown, which, of course, if you watch AEW, you know that they refer to Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, Jungle Boy, and the fourth guy is drawing a blank right now. My apologies, we're live. They're called the four pillars of AEW. So a little reference to that, I suppose. We had the ring introductions, and then the standard thing that happens every single week, MJF. How could I forget MJF? Shame on me. Hopefully he's not watching this video. I'll be on his shit list. Bianca Belair showed up on commentary. It's like they do this every single week, and it's so lame because you know what's going to happen. She's out there on commentary. You know somebody's going to knock into her or something. It always happens every single time. I wish they had just done a straight-up match with no Bianca Belair. Like, she could have shown up on the ramp afterwards. I'm so bored with it. Match was very good, but this honestly kind of took me out of it a little bit. Just because I knew it was going to be shenanigans at the end and something with Bianca getting involved. But anyways, match was really solid. Crowd was into it. Sasha Banks did the Three Amigos. Crowd chanted Eddie Guerrero. Sasha hit a Meteora 3 times, once into the ring post, and then again when they were inside the ring into the corner, and then a third time off the top. But Becky was able to kick out of that. Sasha hit a backstabber. Becky got sent to the outside. They started fighting on the outside of the ring. They got Sasha Banks put on the bank statement on the outside. Becky was kind of tapping out, but it doesn't count on the outside. Back in the ring, Sasha hit a frog splash. Becky kicked out of that. And they kept going back and forth. And then they were on the outside of the ring again. And this is where, the predictable stuff happened. Becky accidentally hit Bianca Belair. Well, actually, it was an accident, but we all know how this goes every time somebody's out there on commentary. And then they got back in the ring. Sasha went for another frog splash, but Becky got her knees up, went for the cover. Sasha kicked out. They exchanged several near falls. And then that's when Becky, with the referee distracted, Bianca whipped Becky with her hair, and Sasha picked up the win over Becky, which was Becky's first loss in over 2 years, I believe, since the middle of 2019, I think. It's been a very long time since Becky Lynch has taken a loss in WWE. Obviously, she was gone due to the pregnancy, but yeah, a long time since Becky took an L in a WWE ring. Walter Cruz with a $5 super chat. Thank you very much for that, Walter. I appreciate it. Says, the commentator spot is as predictable and bad as the contract signing. They are both stale and overused. I agree with you, man. I agree with you 100%. At least they had a finish here. They could have done a DQ or a count out. To their credit, they actually did do a finish. Granted, there was the interference, but, at least they had a finish for this. So I'm happy about that. And because there were no commercial breaks, we had Adam Pearce getting in there and needing everybody to clear the ring to set up the contract signing. We had a contract signing last week. We got a contract signing this week. They just do it way too much. But I will say this was short and effective. So Roman Reigns came to the ring. Brock Lesnar came to the ring. Lesnar just sat there in the chair, put his feet on the table. Reigns signed. Lesnar quickly signed. Didn't even look at the contract, and Reigns had to call him out, calling him a dumbass, a big dumb farmer not reading it before signing it. Lesnar got on the mic and kept it short and sweet. He said he read it earlier with his advocate, Paul Heyman. Then he took his leave. Reigns was pissed, and the announcers were like, can Roman Reigns trust Paul Heyman? I was really hoping that WWE would do something as a cliffhanger to suggest that Paul Heyman was on Brock Lesnar's side. I was really hoping that they would do that, and this was totally acceptable. They kept it short and sweet. They got the point across. Well done. Not a fan of the contract signing as a concept, but I liked how they ended this. In this case, it worked out nicely. Make you wonder, is Paul Heyman going to screw Roman Reigns? I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll get to that on the predictions video, which I'll do the cheap plug for that before we get to Rampage. That will be Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. We will be doing the No DQ predictions. I believe Walter Cruz will be joining us for that. So stay tuned for that. We'll be talking about Crown Jewel. Now, we go over to AEW Rampage. We started with the 1 hour buy-in. We had Ty Conti beating Santana Garrett with a running big boot followed by the DDT. Pretty straightforward match. It was good, not much else to say about it. It's interesting because these two had a match back in NXT in 2019, and now they're wrestling in AEW. We then had Bobby Fish one-on-one with Lee Moriarty, who is now officially part of AEW. He got the All Elite graphic on social media. And this was a pretty good match. Bobby Fish got the win, but Lee got in some offense, got a couple of near falls. Fish did pick up the win, though, with a knockout shot. And he is also All Elite. And like I said, this match to me was more interesting than the Happy Corbin stuff. So if I was somebody who was picking one show over the other, I think I would definitely be watching the Bobby Fish thing over Corbin. Then we had what was, in my opinion, the best match of either show. We had Minoru Suzuki versus Bryan Danielson. A match that could have been on a pay-per-view, quite frankly. These guys got a lot of time, probably a good, I'm not sure the exact length, but I'm thinking it was about 20 to 25 minutes long from start to finish. Crowd was just totally into this. They did a holy shit chant as the two just stared each other down. And basically it was the two guys beating the holy hell out of each other for 20 minutes. They started off with a test of strength. Crowd was chanting, "This is wrestling." They traded a lot of blows back and forth throughout the match. Chops, kicks, forearm strikes, and the crowd would get quiet before the chops. And you had Suzuki taking down Bryan with a strike. Bryan just collapsed. But then Bryan came back, hit some elbow strikes. And Suzuki just wanted more. Every time Bryan would hit him, Suzuki just kept getting more and more fired up, kept sitting up from the kicks. And then Bryan did some stomps. Crowd chanted yes for all the stomps. And then they reversed roles where Suzuki was delivering the blows and Bryan kept wanting more and he kept getting fired up. And they were on the outside of the ring. They came back in. Crowd was chanting "Fight Forever." They both collapsed after trading blows back and forth. Crowd was doing the AEW chants. And Taz was on commentary saying, "If you aren't watching this, you're a dumbass." And they had another stare down, more strikes exchanged. They started leaning on each other. And eventually, they ran back and forth across the ring. Bryan hit the running knee and picked up the victory. Awesome match here between the two of them. Felt like a real fight, And I think that's why people love this style of wrestling so much. Definitely worth checking out. I really think they should have put this on TNT, though, and have the maximum audience, or even Dynamite, because I feel like not a lot of people watched this match. And it's definitely a match that should be seen if you did not watch it. Walter Cruz sent in another $5 super chat. Thank you, Walter. Says, not the best decision to end with the contract signing. Yeah, it was executed okay, but how many viewers clicked away to AEW once they knew the signing was last? Well, here's how the timing went. You had Ruby Soho in a match during the contract signing. And let's face it, Ruby Riott was lower card in WWE. So I'm thinking people are going to be watching Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar over Ruby Soho. Just my feeling on that. But yeah, I think with the Street Profits Usos match against Suzuki and Bryan, that was going to be a tough one. And you had CM Punk and Matt Sydal kicking off Rampage. And that was up against Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. I'm really curious to see the viewership patterns for both shows and see what people were tuning in for and tuning out of. Matt Sydal and CM Punk, another good match here between these guys. CM Punk, maybe his strongest outing. I mean, this was a really good match between these guys. They had a feeling out process in the beginning. Sydal got a good showing against Punk. Worked over Punk for a while. Crowd was behind CM Punk, chanting for him. Punk slammed Sydal on the ring apron. Both almost got counted out at one point. Sydal made a comeback, though. He got several near falls on Punk. And then Punk tried to get the Anaconda Vice on, but Sydal was able to get out of that. However, in the end, CM Punk did pick up the victory, GTS, and then afterwards gave Sydal a hug, gave him some props. Predictable in a sense. I think everybody knew CM Punk was winning, and they do the friendship thing afterwards. So it was good, predictable, but good. And then we had Ruby Soho versus the Bunny. And this was up against Reigns and Lesnar. So we'll see how the numbers go for this. But I could see people tuning out after the CM Punk match. Bunny got in a little bit of offense. But Ruby Riott picked up the win. Standard match here. Ruby won with a backslide. And then she got attacked by Penelope Ford. Ford and the Bunny double-teamed Ruby. And apparently, Ruby has no friends in the locker room. She got laid out by Ford with some brass knuckles. And that was that. Ruby needs some friends. We then had our little segment with Mark Henry interviewing the main event competitors beforehand. Dan Lambert called the Inner Circle a bunch of Inner Circle jerks, and Jericho had to throw the shit bomb like he always does, saying Dan Lambert's a fat-faced dipshit. We then had our match, and Dan Lambert talked some more, wanted some respect, wanted the crowd to sing when they came to the ring, getting a lot of heat. Crowd chanted, "Shut the fuck up" at him. Junior Dos Santos had his first AEW match. It was Junior Dos Santos teaming up with Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky against Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, and Sammy Guevara. Jericho tried to trade blows with Santos, and since Santos is an MMA guy, Jericho was not able to get the best of him. Hager tagged in, did a little bit better, but even he got overwhelmed, and they worked over Hager for a while. Guevara eventually tagged in, did a springboard cutter. He was red hot. Great babyface comeback by Guevara. Jericho got a lion salt, went for the pinfall. That was broken up, and then things just completely went out of control. Hager and Dos Santos were on the outside, and Hager hit Dos Santos with a Uranagi, put him through a table. Crowd chanted, "Holy shit" for that. Jericho put on the walls of Jericho, but then the other top team members interfered, and Scorpio Sky took advantage of the situation and scored the pinfall victory over Jericho. As Jericho mentioned in an interview, the whole point of all this is to elevate Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. There was a post-match beatdown. Crowd was chanting asshole. And eventually Santana and Ortiz made the save for their Inner Circle buddies. A little late, don't you think? You would think that they would have been out there as soon as there was that outside interference. Santana and Ortiz would have ran down there right away. They took their sweet-ass time making the save. But yeah, that was the end of the show. Santana and Ortiz ran off the America's Top Team. So overall, Rampage was not that bad. I think it was pretty solid. But like I said, the best match of either show was on the buy-in, the Bryan Danielson Suzuki match. If I'm just ranking Rampage as far as a letter grade, I'd probably go B-. Nothing you really had to go out of your way to see. Even CM Punk's match was pretty good, but not anything that I think you have to see. But the Bryan match, to me, that was pay-per-view quality. And if there's anything from AEW on this night that you should go out of your way to see, it would be that Bryan Suzuki match. So if I combined the buy-in with Rampage, I'd go with a B+. But B- if it's just the 1 hour of Rampage on TNT. Now for SmackDown, I liked the show. I think it was a very solid show. Good build for Crown Jewel. I would have preferred Bianca Belair not being out there. Hell, let Sasha get a clean win over Becky. It's not going to kill Becky to lose one match clean. They had to do the whole commentary thing, and the contract signing, it was executed well. I give it a solid B. We did not need the Happy Corbin segment. We did not really need it to be 2.5 hours, quite frankly. I would have liked to have seen the Queen's Crown match get a little bit more time. But all in all, good show. Solid B for SmackDown. 40% of you gave SmackDown an A. 24% with a B. 24% with a C. And 11% with a D. So a majority of you did give it an A, though. Michael Wayne says B+. Joey Perez gives it a B-. Muhammad also gives it a B-. And MVP Kev gives it a B. Where are all the people that gave it an A commenting in the chat? Walter Cruz says it's a C+. Got to stick it a letter grade down for the contract signing. And he gives Rampage a B-. There you have it, everybody. Fun night of wrestling. I enjoyed both shows, and I'm very curious to see the numbers. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for all that, all the latest wrestling news and rumors as we head into Crown Jewel this coming Thursday. NoDQ.com will have results coverage, match-by-match coverage on the website. Again, if you liked the video, please give it a like. Spread the word. Tell a friend about the channel. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend, I should say. And I will see you all